because that's when you can experience that over a lifetime consistently daily.
Right.
That has been my experience.
Right.
You know, with my actual name is Amarillo. And so
What's it now?
Amarillo.
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 But he
What?
wrote his arms very nicely.
And so my whole life, I've heard that, and you know, like, oh, do you have a nickname? Can I call you this? Oh, just make up a name. for
Right,
me.
right.
And so in terms of cumulative effect, you know, that's when it may appear as something really minute on the surface, but the impact can be deep, profound. You can be a rage when you hear Patty for that 10,000 times.
Exactly. And again, some people, it's like, you know, they just give up. It's like, you know, I'm not going to change people. They're always going to. But the other people,
That's what everybody
other people,
does.
huh?
Nobody calls me Karen, so.
They call you Karen? Really?
I don't know where it comes from.
That's so funny. But you know what, but if you really want your name and you're very particular about your name, then, you know, you want them to pronounce it the way that it is. And again, I think as we're like, you know, in an age where there are people coming from different parts of the world, there are people, you know, in the U.S., it seems like we're doing more made up names and whatever, you know, so really understanding what people are and who they are. And who was that was saying when we were doing this about, it was around graduation time, and they were getting ready to read the names, and they were saying how they really had to.
Mary
Yes.
Beth.
Yeah, that's right, she said that, and how she really had to practice, like, and get to know what the names were, because they were so, she said almost all of them were names that she.
I was a name caller this year, that was dreadful. It really was. Because you don't want to screw someone else's name, and they whisper it to
Especially
you,
graduation.
and they actually don't spell it out phonetically. They just rewrite their name. I'm like, okay, so how am I supposed to say this again? So one time I gave the mic to the student and said, hey, you pronounce your name.
Oh!
I could not get it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you see again how you get the dialogue going, and part of what we wanted to do here was to get people to really think about what they have learned, and you know, and also sort of summarize it in a case. But it doesn't end here, because now it's about you got to have a difficult conversation here, and how are you going to approach this? So to do this particular piece, what we've done is we set up a fishbowl. Has anybody ever done a fishbowl exercise? Okay, there are different ways that are doing it. So this is kind of this is a bit of a modified fishbowl, because we really don't have you know, a room where people can be, you know, somebody in the middle and people totally around them. We're going to kind of do this. So we're going to need 2 volunteers to help us out with this fishbowl exercise. And one person is going to be Patella, and one person is going to be the professor. And, you know, one day she walks by the professor's office and notices that his light was on and the door is cracked. She peeks her head in the room, and she gets the professor's attention. Remember, he said, like, you know, kind of basically, I don't have time to do this. He reluctantly invites her into the office. And so this is going to be the dialogue the professor and Patella have, difficult conversation around this. So what you're going to do is, for this particular exercise, you're going to need 2 chairs originally. One is for the professor, and one is for Patella. And you're going to ask for volunteers. And I guess if you don't get any volunteers, it's going to be you and the co-trainer that have to do the actual thing. So do we have any volunteers, or does my co-trainer have to do this with me? It's okay if there's no volunteers. All right, for the sake of this, me and my co-trainer, how about that? You guys do it. Okay, you guys, okay, so check what page, I mean, normally we would have we need to have it ready for people, but I'm going to ask you to take page 112. Can you guys, okay, take page 112?
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to ask people, we'll give you a second to just kind of look at the script, okay? Who's going to be Patella and who's going to be the professor?
You're professor every day.
Okay, so this is about, I want you to listen to the conversation they have. It's going to be somewhat difficult, I'll tell you up front. And then when we come back together, we're going to really need to be talking about, like, how can we help them with this difficult conversation? Okay, whenever you guys are ready. Patella has just peeked in to the office. He's coming around.
Hello, Professor. I saw your light on and I decided to put my head in to speak with you. So thanks for inviting me to come in and sit down.
I really don't have time to see you. You know I'm very busy and it's not a good usage of my time. I think I told you that when I saw you at the event last week, I'll tell you.
I appreciate that you're busy, but this paper, this topic is very important to me. In fact, that's why I wrote about it. I think everyone should be concerned about what's happening to black and brown folks, and our country really needs to do something about all the police brutality in the communities of color.
But tell me, I cannot handle all of the world's problems, and neither can you. Besides, there are a whole lot of important issues in the world, including my meeting that I have to go to in 5 minutes. Now, was that all?
Actually, no, it's not. You know, I'm really not happy that you seem so uninterested. You know, there are a lot of folks like me who are almost always the only one or two people of color in our classes. Do you know or even care how it feels to be so isolated and alone at this university? Your lack of interest makes me feel so insignificant and invisible.
But tell her, you can't expect me to relate to an issue that doesn't involve me in the least. I cannot get bogged down with every issue that's important to you or your people. Besides, I have hundreds of students. Can you imagine if I got emotionally involved with all the issues and concerns?
Okay, so you need to change this, because see, I need to stand up. Well, Professor, the issue of Black Lives Matter does concern you. There are many Black, Latino, and Asian students of color attending this university, both students and faculty, not to mention the diverse Cambridge and other communities in the vicinity of this campus.
Look, Patella, I'm not trying to avoid you or the topic, but I have a meeting to attend.
Well, can I discuss my paper in class tomorrow?
Not in my class. Not tomorrow, not ever. Of course, I believe in the First Amendment, but we have a lot more pressing topics I must cover. The last thing I need is to have you bringing up this volatile subject in my classroom, getting people sidetracked.
Who does the last piece? That's it.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
granted. All right. I told you that I read your paper and it's emotionally all over the place. Why don't you just take my advice, stop trying to fix the world? In fact, next time, why don't you write about something all of us can relate to, something nice and interesting and non-controversial like global warming. Will you please leave now because you really made me late for my meeting?
I want you to know I'm going to your boss.
In that instance, I would want to stand up.
No, because he really changed the power dynamic, and it looked like he was really.
All right, we can
down
change
to
it. We can change
Yeah,
it.
it would make her really uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, this is so
You
funny.
need to comment
Um,
too.
So, what do you think?
What?
What do you think?
Yeah.
First of all, I have to say this. I have to say that I never imagined that you guys would get into it to the level that you did, and I love it. And I think that you brought it to so life, and so, I was feeling it, I was really feeling it. You guys are great. Yeah, it's fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And, you know, and
Nice job. And you know, I'm always City Academy Award.
And I want to say something about the sitting down, because when I was writing that, and I had to tell, first I had to tell her rise up to, and I said, no, let her stay down and see what happens, you know, and, you know, you got into it and you took it to another level. I love it.
But you know, but seriously, I mean, Catherine's right. A Leslie student would have stood up. A Leslie student would have kept sitting there talking to you, And if you did not give them a satisfactory answer, you can believe they were going to the dean,
That's
and then it
interesting.
goes to the provost.
That's interesting,
You know.
very interesting.
That's interesting, yeah.
Very interesting. So they're a little bit more, like, not as, I mean, a little bit more, whatever.
I mean, sometimes they don't even come to the faculty. They go directly to the dean.
Yeah.
And we've had people write the president immediately on an issue they
Well,
want
should
to
we,
resolve.
should we
Wow.
put something in there where Patella says, okay, I bet she'll hear from me. And she says, you know, and then the end of the story is that Patella went to the dean to speak to.
I think that
or
there's
something like
that threat, and I have to tell you that some of this, so I'm gonna be real here, some of this carries a threat of being, if you're not addressing this issue, you are under the gun, as it were,
Wow.
for, I'm probably overstating this, but you'll need to be corrected.
There will be a talking to.
Huh?
There will be a talking
Like
to.
censured, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so tell me something, okay, because, you know, this was something that we literally just put together. And Sandra did the first draft and I did the second draft of it in terms of like, you know, we work really well in terms of one doing one and the other one, you know, and so is this somewhat realistic or can we add something to it that would like, what should we have her say, okay, you know, you don't want to talk about me, you'll hear from me and then you'll hear from me after I talk to the president.
I think that the ending needs to be that Patella, at the very least, if we don't do it, it goes to the dean, that Patella is rethinking what her next steps should be.
Yeah, that
Something
sounds
to
great.
that nature.
So
But
tell us.
this is a very hot topic
Like,
that's
this
right
is
now.
more-
So if a professor really did this, a professor would really get called on the carpet, really called on the carpet, by the division director, the dean, and probably the provost.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, you will have so much cover, and probably the dean of student academic life.
Yeah.
You will get so much cover that you will regret that you've done this.
So tell me something, like, do we need to adjust the ending or adjust it in some way to make it more real? I had no idea, it's funny, because I kind of got the sense that, you know, that it was going on, but, you know, that there wouldn't
I
be
think
that
you can
level
look
of.
frustrated and exit, but I think, you know, you put it in parentheses, if people are gonna read this.
They're actually not gonna read this.
Oh, no,
They're not
they're
reading
not
this.
gonna have
No,
it.
they're not, no, they're only the two,
Yeah.
only the you know, the
I
two
think
people, right?
At most, if you want to add something, it's like a, you know, when Patella looks frustrated, it's like a, this isn't over. Like something,
Okay.
something.
Or even like
Oh, this is
professor walks
over?
away and she says, I'm gonna go see the dean.
Yeah, something sotto voce, right?
Yeah.
The sort of,
Or something like, you know, well, you have to go to a meeting, I'm going to the meeting with the dean to talk about this, or something like that. Would that?
Something
Something
like
like that.
Well, you go to your meeting and I'll go to see the dean or something.
Or you go to your meeting, I'll go have a meeting with your boss, so what can we do? Yeah. But a lot of times they do skip the division director, they go directly to the dean.
It's nice that everyone's so accessible, but it means that that happens.
Yeah.
And believe me, the dean gets back to you with this little nice cryptic email. I had this student come by to see you.
Call me now.
Call me now. Well, this is something that you should handle.
Wow.
That's actually pretty impressive, I mean, because most
And
colleges
again,
are not
we have a
doing that.
professor that took a student's paper. The professors collected student papers, and most of them they put a check on. And one student's paper, he wrote an X. And she asked the professor, why did you put an X by my paper? He said, oh, I'm just putting marks on it. He says, but what does that X mean? You didn't put an X on anyone else's paper. You can believe that student left that class and walked into Christine Evans' office and told the whole story from beginning to the end. And Christine Evans says, I want to call this to your attention, please handle this.
Interesting, interesting.
So, yeah, so students are not sure.
All right, so I think we should add something, you know, okay, as she's exiting, saying, you know, okay, go ahead and go to your meeting, because I'm going to a meeting and I'm going to meet the dean, and I will tell him, since you won't do this by issue, he'll listen to my issue, or she'll listen to my issue. You know what I mean? Something to that effect. Okay, that's actually really good to know, because you know, again, the students are brazen, they're not gonna.
Well, the other thing is you want to also let the participants know that the student is not helpless. In other words, even though the professor did not do something or did not hear her, she is still not helpless. Even though it's frustrating, but she's not helpless.
Will that come out of the conversation, Martha? Because we didn't even have the conversation.
We're getting ready to do that right now.
But I'm just asking, that might be something that would come out in the conversation with the students.
if you had students in the room, they'd be immediately saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're gonna go to the dean or the chair, or you're gonna make a complaint.
So here's how we would process this, okay? So after they finish doing the role play, we have four, again, remember there were going to be 20 to 30 people, so we would put 4 seats there for our fishbowl. And we're going to ask, to have 4 people to volunteer to come. And what we want to do is, okay, this is a difficult conversation. We want to give some guidance to both Patella and to the professor about how they might approach having this conversation, this difficult discussion, so that it is more instructive than destructive. How do you have an instructive, not a destructive conversation about these kinds of issues? And so we invite the people to come and talk about that in the fishbowl. What do you think?
I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good follow-up from the video. I'm just trying to think of.
So but now we're getting at the part where we need for people to talk about how do you handle these, difficult, destructive conversations. And so the thought was, okay, so we get a few people here to talk through what advice they might give to Patella and what advice they might give to the professor about this, okay? And then we let them go on for about 5 minutes. This exercise is going to go on about 15, this report out about 15 minutes. We let them go for 5 minutes, and then we stop the conversation and say, would anyone like to join the fishbowl, and would anyone like to exit the fishbowl? Or if you want to join, maybe you can just tap someone on the shoulder and then they have to exit. That's usually how a fishbowl works. But that's how we were going to process it. But you talk about what are the messages you can give to each one about how they can have an instructive conversation.
I think it works in, I do role play in one of my classes about the last fight you had with a significant other. And we have the person who's teaching the fight be in the role play first, and then step out of the role play, and somebody else is that student, and then somebody else is the fighter, with the partner in the fight. It works really well. Students are a little reticent at first, because it's weird. But it works really well, and especially if somebody gets stuck. Because I have them redo the role play. That's what I have them do.
Oh, you have them redo it?
I have them redo it and try different language.
Wow, that's great.
But I don't know if we'd be ready to do that.
I don't think we're ready.
I use a half an hour to do it, so.
Just to go through the press all over it, love it, but I do think that it would take a long time into
Yeah,
this.
that's what it is.
Well, what we're trying to get at people to start to really, what people, the feedback from the session, because you'll see in a moment, we have some tips that we give people, and what we did before was we just really talked about, well, here's what you can do for whatever. And people said, well, we really don't want you to be lecturing, let them come up with, and then you can say, okay, here are some additional tips. So let them come up with, how do you handle these difficult, conversations? And then you'll see there's some handouts that we have for people. So what do you want to say?
No, I just say, I like the activity that it lets people in the group hear from each other.
Yeah.
And like you said, generate.
So can I, just for sake of argument, would a few people, maybe 2 or 3, get in and just start, let's try the conversation and see what we come up with in terms of having this difficult
I mean,
conversation?
the other 3
I've done these role plays, I don't do them.
Physician heal myself.
That is a small group.
All right, so let's start with, what do we start with? Let's start with, what advice can we give to the professor about this difficult conversation? The students come up to him and clearly upset. What do you think how he might handle this?
This one.
I would say that that's the first thing, to acknowledge that it is important to her. This topic is really important to you. And even if it doesn't quite fit in the class, how can he help her frame it so that it does fit into the class? Because I think that's the hard part. When somebody's really passionate about something and it doesn't quite fit into the class, it's like, so this really doesn't fit, but here's how I think it could, and it takes some thinking.
John, didn't we have it as, this was a cultural, like a cultural
Cultural
class?
studies, that's
Cultural
what I
studies
said.
class, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a cultural studies class, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the assignment might have been for something more longer term past historical. If they're talking 1492 in class, then maybe there's some, like, when we talk about something, you know, mid-second millennium. But even then, you can say, okay, well,
Can you show about the origins of the Black
Right,
Lives
can you do a
Matter,
compare and
the
contrast?
last
Yeah.
civil rights?
Yeah, you can clearly talk about colonialism and Black Lives Matter. I mean, I see so many parallels there that are just blowing up in my mind right now. But it's, you know, the professor needs to listen and take a step back and say, okay, how do I relate 1492 to Black Lives Matter today? And there's so many parallels. That's what I was looking for. There's so many parallels that you can draw.
for quick facilitation note, are we enforcing silence on the outer fishbowl when we're running the event?
Yeah, the fish are over.
Okay, I think the fish is supposed to be just like moving the mouth and not saying anything, you know what I mean? But, you know, all right.
There's a
so
chair,
wait,
there's a chair.
wait, there's a chair.
What are you supposed to do when you want somebody to leave the fishbowl?
Oh, that is
Later in the
funny.
Jonathan, you can get in the fishbowl.
Oh, I'm good.
So, but this is actually one of the things.
Actually, that may be an idea too. You put 4 chairs there, but one's empty.
So someone
And
can
so
rotate
someone
it.
can, so rather than saying, anybody, they want to come in or come out or whatever, you can do that.
Yeah. One thing, I was looking over that script, and we have the advantage of looking over the script. I'm struggling to find good advice from Patella. I think Patella's been doing a pretty good job articulating her needs and her frustrations.
One of the things I teach students and actually clients,
Mhm.
when they're in a one-down position, is to acknowledge that they're in a one-down position. In some subtle way. It's very sneaky, actually. I know that you have a lot to teach me about how to, I'm just trying to invent this off the top of my head. I'd have to really think it through, but it's something about how your topic connects to my topic, and that as, you know, blah, professor, it's complementary and it's acknowledging the person's, frankly, power in some way, but at least their education, and inviting them to help you. Can you help me figure out how a topic like this could fit into your class? And that invitation, I often teach clients to ask for help when they're being oppressed. Children, you know, to compliment and then ask for something that they want.
I thought, it's funny, I think it's a really good path to go down, but, oh, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna come in and I'm gonna swim in and swim out, okay? All right, where I thought you were going with it was, I lost my train of thought now that I swum in.
Compliment, then ask for invitation.
Where you said, I know that you have a lot of knowledge on this area, but you know something, I just want to say something. I really think that you have a lot of knowledge, but I really do think you could also learn something from me about, you know, the plight of how someone might feel as as a brown person dealing with this. And you know, no disrespect, Professor, but you know, maybe you need to really understand a little bit more about these microaggressions and go to the diversity training class, because have you ever heard of these things called microaggressions? And what it is, you know, and again, no disrespect or anything like that. I really like the way you teach or the things you come up with, but I think you need to understand more about why Guatemala is so important, because that's my home country. But also, this issue is really important because what I want to do with my life afterwards is really work like this professor that I know named Catherine you know, who like is really good at these. I want to be in family psychology doing this kind of work, you know what I mean? So I think it would be a good thing for you to think about, you know, this topic, and maybe I could teach you a few things about this topic.
Oh.
How dare you instruct me? I went to school, I had 4 degrees.
Yeah.
Where did you go to school? I have a degree, you're trying to get one, and you have to get through my class to get there.
Once again.
It's a power dynamic.
So
I was swimming in and swimming out.
I do think that faculty members who are lectured by students have a defensive reaction.
Yep.
I
It's
agree.
a visceral response to you doing this. You know, back off now. Honey. And I have 2 chairs that are very close together in my office. I sit at the desk, my chair is very close to me, and a lot of times students sit across the room. And I always respect that because they want to put distance between themselves. When they get up close and then they lean forward, I'm always like, whoa. So, you know, what is a professor's reaction to power maneuvering, in some sense, by a student? I'm going to call the dean, I've written the president already, my dad has called the director, the head of the board. You have to take a step back and swallow the defensiveness if you're good at it, and just respond as calmly as you can. Maybe you can educate me.
And sometimes professors will talk about academic freedom, but this is really, part of the advice to Patella is that you're building a case for academic injustice. And my advice to her was, I understand you're frustrated, I understand this is unfair, but I will continue to document what you're doing and what you're going through. I will continue to document the experience because you are building a case for academic injustice. And the university must respond to cases of academic injustice, in as much as helping her take the class over again, giving her opportunities to get credit. There's just so many things that the university has to do. So if you don't feel you're getting anywhere, you really do have the opportunity to start building a case for academic injustice.
So are you threatening me? Are you threatening me with academic injustice? I mean, because you know something, I have this paper, and I'm sure other people looking at my paper would like think that it's not so bad.
The interesting thing,
You just don't know what you're talking about.
the interesting thing, Dr. Nash, is I don't even have to tell you that I'm charging you with academic injustice. You will find out from the dean.
Ooh, that's a little.
Well, I'll call my lawyer then.
And they will.
I mean, I think one of the things you can, and this is probably, because this is things you would say directly to the professor.
Right.
It's tough because a lot of it is falling on Professor Nash to kind of create space because he was the one who was microaggressive. I mean, outside of his dean or somebody, it's tough because if he's not inviting or creating that inclusive space, you know, to tell him to change his pedagogy, it could result in some of these slice of defense mechanisms. And so that's what I'm thinking, how to approach it to give you insight.
That's actually a really good point, though. One thing we can do for the student is say, you know, I realize there's really difficult power dynamic involved with you and your professor. There is someone you can talk to who works under the provost who might help you articulate some of this with your professor. His name is Leo, he's a great guy. You know, do that sideways bit.
The thing I also say to students is, have you talked to your advisor? Because one of the challenging things, and Jonathan and I have talked about this, is when the provost is in the conversation, when the dean is in the conversation, it's not the person who knows the academic content well and could coach the faculty member on how to change their content a little to bring this in, or how to address the issue respectfully next time. No offense, I don't like it when it goes above the director for coaching the faculty. The reason I asked about adjuncts is, a lot of them are new.
Right.
Yeah.
And they don't really know, you know, they're teaching a topic for the first time and they're like terrified they're gonna get fired. So, you know, they're trying to be good and get the content and do everything right. And get good evaluations.
Yeah, and I don't like that because at that point things are already not good. But I guess what would be good though is if you had those faculty folks in the room here after this discussion, I think you can state, when you start the course at the beginning of the semester, the faculty say, hey, I understand things are happening, especially in the cultural studies course, the things happen in society, or create a project that allows them freedom to identify the topic. So those things are done ahead of time, so that when the Guatemala issue occurs like this, she can say, oh, I want my paper to be about this, on my presentation. Everybody gets
But there's one thing that students also need to know, and that goes back to Catherine's point. As a department chair, I can talk to my faculty directly.
Yeah.
I mean, I can actually be very blunt with my faculty also if I need to be.
But you also, you know the content.
But I know the content. Once you take me out of the loop and then bring me back in because my boss has brought me in, it creates a whole different dynamic. But if the student actually comes to the division director, and I'll sit down with Professor Juan and basically say, not only this is what I'm hearing, but also point out to Professor Juan, these are things that you need to be sensitive to. And oh, by the way, you do understand that student evaluations impact your contract renewal, that they impact your course selection, and that we need to, that our focus is on student-centered learning. So I can help to remind a faculty member of all of these things, and also help the faculty member to understand the sensitivities and microaggressions.
Yeah, but it's student-centered learning, but quite honestly, she needs to get over it. I mean, she really does need to get over this Black Lives Matter and really think more about some global war. I mean, really something that she can do something about. Really, I mean, so what am I supposed to do? Like, just, be now an advocate for that? I don't believe that. I don't think
you don't
that's
have to
right.
be an advocate, but education is about controversy, it's about being uncomfortable, and it's about dealing with topics that we don't always know a lot about. And learning is a two-way street. We do learn as much from our students as they learn from us. And so you can take this opportunity to sensitize yourself to the Black Lives Matter movement.
So can I say, for me, like in sort of like judging a professor in this, I kind of don't think he would be the type of person that would easily change, because I don't think he really
I
kind of
really
sees that he, you know what I mean? Like, I think it would be more like what I was just playing in terms of like his response to it. It's like, he really does think that she'd be better off thinking about global warming than this issue. You know what I mean? So how do you, so again, I'm talking about a difficult how do you, I think that's what we're also talking, how do you get at something like that?
I mean, I think that, Johnson, the way you phrased it, like the things you said you would do in, like, I don't know if that's in a department meeting or one-on-one, but let's say you had an instructor who unintentionally was silencing a teller. That person might be receptive to what Jonathan was saying, so, oh, here's some things to think about, and then take that.
Here's some ways to do it. I mean, we have this, it's not this issue, but we're dealing with, the use of technology in the classroom. I'm always inviting people, share what you have on your syllabi, because this is a hard conversation if somebody has learning challenges, they need to take notes on their computer, and you think it's disruptive, and I walk around the room and they're on YouTube, So we invite people to share. I have a faculty member who has a diversity statement on her syllabus. Did this get shared with the community? Because I said to her, this is really good. Did it come from up there? and are we sharing it? It's like Leslie is actively committed to being an inclusive community, valuing diversity. If I can make this class more open or whatever it is, inclusive, let me know. It's short.
That's awesome.
But I thought, oh, this is wonderful, because it invites the student. It says, if I send it to the adjuncts, it says, you are going to be open to students coming and talking to you about, can this class address my issue? And sometimes the answer is going to be no. But let me tell you 5 other ways you can address that issue on campus. And that puts onus on the faculty member to be a resource to the student also, because I do think there are going to be times when the faculty member says, this class can't address everything.
But the other side of it is that students also need to understand is that when a faculty member goes over that syllabus on the first day of class or that first week of class, and they ask you, you know, what do you think about the syllabus? Many faculty will do that. They will ask you, are there other topics that you would like to cover, or other expectations that you have in this class? At least I do, maybe I'm weird.
I'm authoritarian, evidently.
I'm sorry.
I'm authoritarian, evidently.
And the other thing I do in my class is that I do these periodic check-ins. When I ask them, are you learning what you expected? Are you getting out of this class what we said we were going to get from the beginning? What do you want to do differently?
Yeah.
How can I change my pedagogy? My students will tell you, I do that 4 or 5
That's
times
excellent.
in a semester.
That's
Because because I've had students come up to me and say, this way that you're teaching does not work for me. You're excitable, because I am excited. I'll get up and dance, and I'll get all kinds of things in the classroom. And one student says, I love your energy, but your energy scares me.
But can I say, though, it's interesting that you should say, because in the business world, we talk about like taking mid-course corrections and like asking those kinds of things so you can do that. So I'm wondering if like your business background just, sort of, leads you to think, well, I need to do this, which I think is an excellent thing in the classroom, and also when you're doing training to kind of check in with people in that way.
It may be,
We
especially as a
actually
consultant.
ask our adjuncts to do an early mid-course feedback that's informal from their students. How are we doing? What's going well? But I don't ask my core faculty to do it. It's so funny. And I don't do it. I think I'm trying to be in touch with students in an ongoing way. We also have these things that come up on the course evals that the professor changed the syllabus or changed, even if the students ask for something, they complain about a change in the syllabus. And it's like,
Oh, what are you going to do?
But I do think that, and by the way, when adjuncts come to me and ask for advice, that's one of the things I give them. Ask your students, are they getting what they expect out of this classroom?
Right.
And it really makes your life so much easier. It really does.
or it opens up a conversation about reasonable expectations for this particular.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I kind of ignore the fact when they say this is too much work. My response to that is
Yeah,
suck it up.
that's not it.
Suck it up.
This topic needs to be in here. And I'm like, no, we're not going to do DSM, didactic manual in this family class. Not going to happen.
But Catherine, I think that that's an important thing too. It's like around managing expectations. Like we were saying in this class, we're really focusing, like you were talking about the socioeconomic piece, and I would love to do that, but quite honestly, we're really focusing for this particular class on, the issues of race, ethnicity, gender identification. So, so being able to also be able to come back and say, I hear what you're saying, and maybe that's something we can do at another course or another time. But for this class, unfortunately, we're not going to be covering that. And being honest with people about what you are not going to do, right?
But let's go back to the professor, because we do have some more leverage.
Yeah.
Contract renewal is leverage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you expect to continue to teach at Leslie,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is what Leslie does, and this is what Leslie doesn't do. We have a social justice theme. It is part of our ethos.
Mhm.
What you're doing, Professor Nash, is violating, you're committing a social injustice by not taking outside views or considering opinions that are different from your own. And so,
I get it.
so we do have some leverage. This is why you get the department chair in early. If you got a problem with the professor, tell her you come to your division director ASAP, because we can make mid-course corrections. And
We can try to.
And the other thing we have the right to do is we have the right to go into a faculty member's classroom. And again, some of these I agree are a bit coercive, but you have to understand what we have the authority to do as your academic supervisor. I can go in your classroom anytime I want to. I don't even have to tell you that I'm going.
Wow. Interesting.
So there's so many things that we can do as division directors if you get us involved early.
Interesting. All right, as much as I would love to continue on this, I'm going to have to bring this to a close. And thank you,
Some people
Ms.
just have too much
Scholes.
passion. Way too much passion.
That was excellent. So, here's a few things. This is we're getting ready to, I want to finish really very on time. Okay, so after we, again, sort of talk about that and kind of summarize it or whatever, and hopefully there'll be a rich dialogue about, what they might do. But also we have on the next few pages, in your handouts, it would be on page, so in your book, it's on page 114, 115, 116, no, 114, 115. but in the handouts, it's on page 15 and 16. And it's just some tips that, you know, and again, if for some reason people aren't coming up with them, you can maybe refer to some tips in terms of what can be done. But this is meant more as like a resource or a handout, which I'm thinking we may want to put this more in the resource section of the guide or not. Okay, so that's how we would, you know, close this up. We're saying, you know, about here's some other suggestions for you. And I think we're going to put that in the resource guide because we, you know, I think that would be a better place to put it. Okay, so now we want to just come to the last portion of our seminar. We're going to just tell you about, where is Leslie going with this now? Where are we moving? We have an action planning, and we also want you to continue your learning. So we've got some resources to help you to do this. So on page number 18, on page number 18, yeah. I know, I'm making a note to include resources. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. On page number 18 is a listing of some of the resources that we have captured that are already here in Leslie. And our actual hope is that by the fall, I mean, I love it. We've been trying to get people, like, tell us, like, are there activities or events or things that we could put in as a calendar? I mean, this is just like the first draft. But just getting to put in one place, like, what are some of the things? If you guys have other things that you know, please tell us. So, you know, and if you know before the class, let us know, because we're trying to ask around as much as possible, and this is where we've kind of gotten it so far in terms of what we found out. But I also think, like, for example, I know I saw just, someone gave it to me, and it was, you guys are having all these muckety mucks come for a Leslie speaker series. You know, these people who, like, get paid, like, $50,000 for a speech or whatever are coming. And again, I know not everybody can come, but that might be the kind of thing that if, you know, usually if you have people like that coming, you could get someone like a John to take them or something like that. And people could use that, or you might have some tickets, or there may be other things that are going on. So I think the ideal thing would be at some point to do that. But at this point, we're really talking to the people about the fact that this is not a one-shot deal. That the goal is, there are committees that are working on this, that you'll be starting to be seeing even more. There's inclusion plan, diversity-wide inclusion plan, the social justice task force. I'm sorry, I never get this right. Task Force for Social Justice in Teaching and Learning, and other, you know, groups that are really trying to move the agenda forward. So more to follow. This is not a one-shot deal, and that really is what the message is there. The other thing is that we think it's really important. We hope that there is at least one thing that you will take away that you want to do, that you will do as a result of taking this course. And on page number 19, we have a diversity and inclusion action plan. So we're going to ask you, and this is like one where you give people like 5 minutes or 3 minutes, okay, to say, before you leave, I'm going to ask you to commit to something. I'm going to ask you to commit that as a result of you attending this workshop today, that you're going to take these action steps. One would be a personal goal, you know, that you might take to become more self-aware around what you've done. One might be like thinking about my job, or thinking about my classroom. If I'm, you know, what's something that I could do, you know, to, you know, become more diverse and inclusive friendly. And finally, what about your department or your school? What could they do? And so here's the thinking. I guess the people who are, you know, all the people that are in charge on the academic and non-academic side are supposed to, after this session, start to meet with people who come from the session to really discuss these kinds of things, and then eventually get their groups together, schools or departments, so people can start to think about how we can do the action planning and move forward. Okay,
Who's gonna meet?
well, okay, this is, okay, I'm saying this, okay, I can talk to you guys and being honest. That's the plan, and that's what people want to do. And I kind of raised my hand because I knew that that's what they want to do with it, but it's not 100% clear. It's not cemented in concrete. yet, okay? So, that's to go, but they do want to make sure that we, let people know that there is going to be some more action, so take this seriously and go back to your departments
Is
and
this going to be handed in anywhere, or they're just doing this for their own personal knowledge?
Again, right now, it's supposed to be for your own personal knowledge, but you're gonna go in and really talk, again, I don't know how they're gonna do it yet, but you're supposed to be able to go back to your department and discuss it with your manager. So what I did, because I know it's not 100%, well, I came up with some language that can kind of say that without, that you can say, please note you will continue your action plan in the future with members of your school department after this workshop. So that's all we can say right now. Hopefully by, it'll get sorted out by the time in the next few weeks. But if not, at least, we can just say that's what people wanted to have happen. They didn't want it just to stop here. The other thing I want to just say is that, so we'll give people a few minutes, depending on how much time you have left, like 5 minutes or less to, kind of do that. And then the final thing that you want to do in sort of closing things out is also to have people, so you walk through that, sorry. Is let people know about the resource guides that we have. So in the back, I'm sorry, I'm looking at 2 minutes here.
Page 21.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to think, I think I need another slide here for you guys. So what we've done to continue your learning is like we put together a resource guide. So if you look in, and again, this is in your manual too, but if you look at page 20, starting on page 20 of their handouts, in the resource guide, we have a number of things. There are articles, books, classroom resources, and websites that we've come up with also people in throughout the community have come up with. Again, if you guys have specific anything that you might think might be good to put on the resource list, we would really enjoy it. There's, as you can see, microaggression articles. Again, Dr. Sue is a wonderful, there's some really good stuff that he's doing out in research around that. We also have some self-assessment tools. If you want to become a little bit more aware, there's some great self-assessment tools. There's a tool that Harvard is doing called the Project Implicit, and it's about implicit bias. That I think you know that one too. That's a really good tool for people that are saying, well, gee, I don't know how biased I am or whatever, but that's a really good tool. So there are a bunch of, and then there's a lot of good work that's being done at the at Georgetown around some of these issues. So we've just put those sites. Here at Leslie, other resources in the library, and the librarian again is going to give us more specifics, but these are some resources there, and the zine. And we want to be able to talk more about that. And we're going to have.
Jamie Glass is going to bring, each workshop will have zine material that people can, that they can use to continue their dialogue in a creative way.
And I think it might be a good thing, again, to sort of think about, I really like the idea of maybe doing some storytelling or something like that, or having some way to, make that more concrete. There also are other articles about when cultural rules will differ. The World of 100 exercise that I did, as I said, go to this source, Google it. It's a wonderful tool for learning, and you've got some other information about what the world would look like if there are 100 people. That's always really kind of interesting, and also if you're teaching, you might want to sort of infuse this in some creative way. And one other thing that is here are the references that were used to create, the information here, which again, there are a number of sites that you might want to check out to also help you with that. So we won't walk through all of them, but just to let people know that in the back of their handouts are additional things that they can use to continue their learning. And one last thing that we're going to tell people is that it's very important that we get feedback from people about this program, and to do that, when you get back, you're going to be receiving just kind of a thank you note from us, but also a link to an evaluation form that we really hope people will fill out, and so that you can really tell us how things went or didn't go, or what you want more of or less of, or whatever, in terms of the seminars and the programs here at Leslie. On that note, just want to see if there's any, if we were doing this seminar, just anybody have any last comments or questions or things that they might like to ask? As we're closing out.
Opportunity, I know you said you guys have to take, we have to return the manuals, but, the handouts, can we?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes, you can take the PowerPoint slides, the handouts we're gonna keep for right now. Again, and the methods.
Oh, that's okay.
I wrote on mine.
That's all right.
The method to the madness is that, like I said, unfortunately, because there are still some things, we don't want like different versions and then people come and they use that version.
Yeah.
So
And then not, so,
You're supposed to leave this?
everything, no, you can leave the PowerPoint, but everything else we're gonna
There's
actually take back.
This.
That's what you're gonna leave with right now. But like I said, we will be sending stuff back out to you and also, so that you can have time to prepare.
When would, because I know the first session is September.
Yeah,
The
so
maybe,
no, but the first few sessions, you guys are not gonna be doing necessarily, you know what I mean? So
I
it'll
know
be
you
later
said
in the
that's
month.
the first one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but the first one, what we're gonna get, because we had people like, coming in, so we've gotta like look at who's gonna do which session and that sort of thing. So we also are gonna be asking you to probably, again, take a look at the dates and we
Yeah.
have to come back to some people because there were people who were done dipping in that kind of thing.
Yeah, and would there be a manual available by that first session?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, we're just talking again, just like, a little bit, and there were a few things that you guys brought up that I wanted to tweak in this, but mostly we're trying to give people that said they would give us more information and get it in now. We can always, revise it, but we're really trying to make an effort to do that. And that's all, again, if you guys have anything, you want to email us and let us know, appreciate that, have a good.
And I don't know if you touched on it while I was glancing at it,
But I
but
should give you my, you guys my personal email.
with future sessions, let's say we get real deep into a conversation on intersectionality.
Yeah.
And we all decide that we need a session on intersectionality down the road. Is that something we would gather a group of sorts and just create that alone? Or would you come back again?
Well, can I just say, I'm just giving my, that's my personal email, if you want to get in touch with me or whatever, and give me a copy, I can, Martha at martharefields.com. But you have to put the RE in there, because they're Martha people. One is a lady that's a tenured faculty member at Harvard, and I've done a lot of stuff over the years, so people always, and she's Martha A. Field, and I'm Martha R.A. Field, so we have to, so you don't get confused. But the answer to your question is, okay, there's supposed to be this diversity-wide inclusion committee that's supposed to take the inclusion plan and kind of take it to the next level. And I know that they're talking now about how that's going to move forward. I think we're trying to, at least right now, get through December in terms of this particular project and also see how it's going to work, or the spin-offs like you guys, I could see you doing something, or modifying it. There are other things too. We actually have a lot of stuff, like we have a lot of raw footage from people. We've got stories, we've got things. I've been pushing too for two things. One is, I think you guys need to become a little more tech savvy when it comes to some of this stuff and really think about what are the websites, what can you use technology-wise, even, Facebook or however you do it, your mechanisms to really get a community going around these things. You've heard me say a few times today, I really think that there needs to be a coordinated effort that really looks at things. And again, I kind of come also with like a branding effort, like this is what we're doing, and here are our events, and here are activities and different things that people are doing, but well thought out. So those things I think people are beginning to think about. But and my hope is like I said, that there's going to be some community that's going to be in support, which we're already seeing, quite honestly. I'm really, really pleased. Like, just with you guys, we had met, and it's like, yeah, we'll come to it or whatever, or, bringing that community to build something out of it. So we'll see what's going to happen with it. My commitment is I'm here just to do the training from now through December, and then, we'll see what does or does not happen, but that's what we're doing right now. Any last words? Can we go around and just do like anything that we didn't cover, you felt we need to cover, any comments that you have, any last pearls of wisdom or last parting words with the last few things that we had to do? Who wants to start?
Those are
really good start. I think that the second half was lighter on gender than I expected.
Later on,
Gender than
Yeah.
I expected.
okay,
So I think there are ways to flesh that out, but
Mhm.
something to be mindful of.
okay, that's a good thought. So to think about how we might use a little more examples or something like that around
The
that.
dynamics are already there with the Patel example,
Yeah.
but just being mindful of incorporating that in if we're front-loading that in the first half.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's a
I
good-
mean, it's easy enough. Matt's a guy.
Yeah. The materials there just need to.
We need to,
Articulate
yeah,
a little more.
yeah, gotcha, that would be good.
The
Thank
standing.
you. Yeah, that sounds good, that's a good observation. Let's go around this way. Anything, and if you have nothing, that's fine too.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this workshop. Very eager to be a trainer, just making sure that I'm communicating the same message across for everyone. It's smooth.
Thank you, glad you enjoyed it, I'm really glad you came.
Yeah, no, I like the fact that, having, it's 5 of us here, but a community of people, because we can get in the dialogue and go back and forth and kick ideas around.
Yeah,
and challenge
exactly.
what people say and look at it different ways. I think that interaction, that kind of experience, the more that happens and the more people, you start to develop that.
You know, now that you say, and also to Mr. Jonathan, not to be confused with John, I think this whole thing of maybe doing a mid-course kind of thing, maybe like, mid-October or something like that, maybe because people have had a chance to, get in and do it, to just kind of bring the, the group together and just, where are we, where are things going, are we seeing things evolving, are we looking at, what are the evaluations saying, because one of the questions on the evaluation is what other things might you like to see, that kind of thing. Also, again, we toyed back and forth with the whole notion. I sometimes come from the old school about evaluations. I kind of like to catch people while you got them and do the paper thing, only because, it's like, you give them out and then you have someone at the door that's like collecting them, so you kind of really do get them back. I think with, having people go away, you may or may not do that, but we kind of think it probably, we're trying to do more to get people like more sort of technology, so to do it that way. But, so anyway, we've kind of gone back and forth, but right now we're going to do the evaluations online.
I think one of the things for me is that it will be important, and Jonathan and I have both sort of alluded to this, as to have these discussions, which are happening in the wider community, come into what are our working groups, which are the school meetings, and really talk about, so where are we? Let's do a check-in on this. Because that, for example, our diversity statement, I'm pilfering off a adjunct syllabus. She got it from the grad school. We don't have one. I keep asking, is there one that we're supposed to use? Now, maybe I should have read the inclusion plan a little more. Maybe it's in there, but in fact, again, I talk about sharing resources. We're not going to reach everybody completely quickly by these workshops.
Yeah, I
How
agree.
can we, I know it's reiterative, but dovetail with the school meetings and have something early to state, here's our emphasis, here's how we're going to invite the discussions, and oh, by the way, talk to your instructor when Patella shows up and asks you to put Black Lives Matter in every single class. So I just think that we're a resource, and
Or teach them how to have that difficult discussion.
Exactly right,
Turning
yeah.
her down easy or managing expectations.
Exactly right.
Or, you know what I mean?
exactly
That's
right,
that's
and talking
really
to your
important.
colleagues about how you would do it. Because I think that the adjuncts here, especially with their union, don't want to feel excluded, and they are invited to the school meetings at least. So if we're not inviting them en masse to this, or if I'm saying, please let Elizabeth Radji come, she teaches in 5 different things. How are we going to dovetail? And
Well,
even
that's
if
the,
it has-
yeah, the adjunct faculty, that I know is high on their list because there's some thinking too that some of the issues that are coming up with students, quite honestly, are not all of the core faculty. A lot of them are with the adjunct faculty. Again, they're not here all the time, and some of them have other professions or whatever, and this is not something that they normally do. But, so I know that there's some thinking about how does this get translated to them, as I said earlier, or whatever, but they're not lost. They're on the table, but they just haven't gotten to phase 2 yet of like, thinking about.
But if those where the students' complaints are coming from, And if we're doing something as a university, the students don't see it because 70%, at least in some of the divisions, are adjuncts. So.
And also, you know, as I keep bringing up, it is also a marketing and communications issue. And, you know, I know Susan has been trying, in the last HR newsletter and different things, but making sure that people know that these things are going on, because, you know, the Black Lives Matter thing, when I started, I was, you know, give me your surveys, give me everything, I really want to look at it. And what kind of surprised me is that some of the demands, many of the demands that the students had asked for, actually have, in the last few months, have been at least started. You know, one of the big things was to have you. That was a big thing. Like, you're here, you're starting, you're working. The other thing was to have some kind of a session where, you know, people could come and get this kind of trip. It's here. But I think it's got to be a better job of marketing and communicating it.
Well, if you videotape, we can certainly ask adjuncts to view the workshop.
Yes, and they are being videoed. Some of them will be videotaped, you know, and some of them will be, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, but a dovetail in school meeting, I just think.
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea. Anybody else? Well, we have reached the magic hour. We're 3:30. I'm going to stick to my ground rule of, you know, starting and ending on time. It has just been a joy and a delight to work with you guys today. To me, you know, being a part of an educational process where you're having fun and you're also learning, and, you know, and it just, I'm exhausted and exhilarated by this whole process, you know, of coming and getting this all together. So can't thank you guys enough for, you know, volunteering your services. The other thing is we are still looking for more people. And, you know, I know Susan is looking to do maybe another train the trainer, because we realize that, you know, people are, this is probably the worst time with vacations and school starting and that kind of thing. But, you know, if you know people that would be interested, if you guys know the faculty.
Now Lucas, because this has been her sabbatical work.
We would love that.
Inclusive institutions.
Yeah.
And how they do it. And she said she hadn't gotten your email. I said, what? I said, you are coming back from sabbatical though. How much do you read that email? Anyways, if there's another one, she might join in. She's feeling a little pushed right now.
Yeah.
Re-entry, as we call it.
Yes.
So again, want to thank our videographer, John. He just graduated from LUCAT, is going back to graduate school. And look what the great work that he has from his portfolio that he can, I mean, I think it's just been a joy and a pleasure and just amazing working with him. Such a professional. And also to my co-trainer, Dr. Sandra Casey-Buford. And finally, I have to tell you, it has been, you know how you work with someone and, you know, you're working real hard and they're working just as hard, if not harder than you, and the two of you are having fun but are kind of, you know, really, really absorbing. This is my partner here in terms, we have just had really, as you can see, this is like producing a few books and then getting people together and just, you know, all along the way. We were here all day Saturday to finalize and you know, and Sunday, you know, to get everything reproduced and moving forward. And just, Susan, it's just been a delight and pleasure to work with you, and thank you for all your hard work in doing that.